this is the beginning of Conservation Commission meeting of June 22nd, Monday. It is now 6:30. First item on the agenda is meeting minutes of, well, it was already June 8th. Was that long ago?
Yeah.
All right, on June 8th it is. A lot of discussion in that meeting. I think it was 10 pages. Any comments or corrections? I didn't find anything I would change, but anything that anybody else was concerned about? All four of us were present, so you can all vote on it.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes from the June 8th, 2026 meeting.
Second.
We have a motion by Mark, seconded by Joe. A roll call vote. Dan, Joe, and Mark, how do you vote?
Aye.
Aye.
And we have an up thumbs from Dan, and I'll throw in an aye as well. The motion carries. Next item is discussion of violations. We have 181 West Main Street, and I guess there was some so you did meet with the owner, is that correct, John?
I did, yeah, I did last week. Met with him on site, basically gave him, I don't want to say an ultimatum, but kind of gave him kind of how this is going to roll out.
Let's say clarity.
Clarity, yeah. And basically informed him that he has till July 1st to potentially get all this stuff in order. He and his contractor and his environmental team are working to get all this stuff, I guess, under wraps. So that way they can meet the July 1st deadline. But for our own, I guess, surety, we also need to be able to protect ourselves because we gave a firm deadline. Therefore, we need to make sure that we follow through with the necessary enforcement, I guess, actions if needed. Therefore, I kind of drafted up a potential enforcement order for the commission to review on the Google Drive. So I just basically gave the commission kind of an understanding how conditionally we can vote to issue this in case that, for instance, they fail to meet the expected deadline of July 1st.
But they showed intent.
They did.
Okay.
They did.
And we'll see if they show action as well as intent. So I went over both the letter, cover letter, as well as the forms. I had no questions. But there is room for changes if anybody else has any changes they want to make on the two submitted proposed forms. Otherwise, we can consider the suggested motion, which would set the spring on the action for July 2nd.
So John, just to clarify, in your discussion with them, do they seem to have any ability to meet that deadline at this point?
They think they do, but they've been telling us that for the last 10, 11 months.
Fair enough.
So just to kind of give us our own kind of, footing, I think it's best to kind of just take matters kind of in precautionary matters. That way we're kind of telling them that there's basically they've run out their course. The deadline window has passed. So I think it's time for them to, see this as being a priority because I think we've all been patient enough.
Right, and as a practical matter, then we would, assuming they don't meet the deadline, we'd be voting on this at the next meeting?
We'd be voting it at this meeting tonight because, for instance, our next meeting is July 13th. So that's where we would have to vote, have a vote for the conditional issuance of the enforcement order as currently written, as I've kind of laid out in my recommendations to the commission.
Okay, thanks.
One question, John.
Yep.
We have a representative here tonight from this group.
I don't know if she's here for this project or the next one, so I don't know which one.
I'm curious if they have any comments on it.
I don't know. I haven't been in contact with them since we spoke to them back in April. So, I mean, I spoke to the owner and told them that they should get in contact with Goddard Consulting and to help them along with the project, but they haven't reached out to me at all. So I'll just leave that to the powers to be.
Well,
Excuse me,
yeah, so Nicole, you already know the story, so.
well, I'm not sure which site you're talking about. I'm here tonight about 292 West Main Street.
Right, but have you been involved with discussions at 181, or?
No,
All right.
no, that's not anything that I'm aware of right now.
But the Goddard representative or the Goddard engineer who was involved presumably has been in contact with that owner. And so my view is it's not really the Goddard engineer, it's the owner that's taking responsibility for it.
Yeah, and I think that's kind of my point here is that the enforcement order that we would issue would go with the owner. It has no bearing on Goddard Consulting. Goddard Consulting is assisting the applicant. Whether the landowner's listening to what Goddard's recommending, I mean, that's a different story. So, you know, at this point, I talked to the owner about it. I gave him basically a laundry list of things via email, so that way there's a paper trail of what he needs to do. If he follows that, great. If he doesn't, the enforcement orders come in and then basically has a 2-year window of hiatus for his business. That's basically what we're looking at.
Okay. So that being the case, anybody interested in presenting a motion on this issue?
I'd like to make a motion to put the enforcement order in play as of July 2nd.
And that's a paraphrase of the recommended motion. And John, from your recommendation, you know what that summary of your recommended motion, how to interpret it. Is that a fair statement? Or,
Yeah, I think if you would just kind of, that's a paraphrase, but legally you probably need to read the whole kind of suggested motion because just to keep us covered.
all right, do you have the text there, Joe? If not, I can provide it.
If you wouldn't mind providing it for speed here, I'm struggling in the document here.
All right, so the suggested motion is move to approve the enforcement order for 181 West Main Street as drafted with a conditional issuance date of July 2nd, 2026. This order shall be issued and recorded if the Conservation Department and Chair determine via site inspection on or after July 1, 2026, that the restoration plantings have not been completed in substantial compliance with the approved April 13, 2026 restoration site plan, which I will parenthetically note was what the owner agreed with their engineer to provide.
So moved.
All right, we have a motion made through Joe and seconded by?
Second.
Seconded by Dan. So Dan, Mark, and Joe, how do you vote?
Aye.
throw an eye in as well. We'll see.
Yeah, I mean, I'm pretty confident they'll be able to get it done, but just to protect ourselves and the commission's, authority, I think it's in the best interest to put that conditional statute in place.
All right. 292 West Main Street. We do have a representative of Goddard Engineering. But do we have a plan for that, just to refresh everybody's, maybe we can share a plan on that.
We do. Craig Siganowski sent me over a site plan that he had. Nicole, do you have that with a markup, or do you have anything you want to share? All right, you have the floor, so it's all you.
Okay. Good evening. My name is Nicole Hayes, professional wetland scientist with Goddard Consulting. Here before you tonight to discuss a violation notice about an expansion of a gravel yard located at 292 West Main Street. And I'll share, if you allow me to share, I can bring that up. Can I share?
Should be able
John,
to.
do you have, or who?
She should be able
Yeah,
to.
you should be able to.
I don't see the share button at the bottom.
Yes, no, maybe.
Oh, I saw it come up on the prompt.
You have co-host abilities. You should be able to.
All right, well then, I don't know how, because there's no button there.
Go click more, and maybe it's there.
Yes, no.
I don't see it, but-
Tools, oh, share, okay, I found it. All right. All right. All right, can everybody see that now?
Or we're
Yes.
in the process, yeah.
All right, great. So this is just an aerial photograph. This is existing conditions. This is a river, a mapped perennial stream. So we have the 100 and 200 foot riverfront area. We have an area of BVW right here. So then we also have the 100 foot buffer zone. And we have a regulatory FEMA floodplain that's located right along the river itself. And if I bring up, okay, can you all see that now?
Yeah.
All right. So we are in the process. We have already delineated the site. So we delineated the riverfront area. That's that dark pink line right through there. The 100 foot riverfront area is this pink hatched line right here. And then the 200 is through the parking lot here. There's some BVW right here. This is the 25 foot buffer zone. And this is the 100 foot BVW buffer zone. So what we've been doing is we've been looking at past historical aerial photographs to see if there was disturbance. And it's really within this area, the dark brown area, within past years on site. So right now, this is the degraded area within the 100, and then this like orange is the degraded area within the 200. All right, so we went all the way back to 1996. It's black and white. The aerials weren't as good back then. They didn't start getting really decent until the 2000s. The current landowner says that he has not impacted anything that was not already degraded. He says he's really only top dressed the existing gravel area. Now, when we go back and we asked him if he knew what this little square was, he said that it was an old volleyball court. And you can see from this 1996 aerial, if you will watch my cursor, it's almost like this area, this is a tree that's shown on almost all the aerial photos, and that's a shadow. And it comes up kind of like that. So, as you can tell, we're not exactly sure what this area was. I mean, it could have been lawn, it could have been gravel. The aerial photographs are not very good again. But in 1996, the Rivers Protection Act was established. So any degraded area or disturbed area within the riverfront area prior to 1996 Rivers Front Act would be grandfathered. So we're looking at that. And then we have that, and that's this yellow outline is what I kind of drew with my cursor before. That's kind of what we're calling the disturbed area from the 1996. And we've also highlighted the existing degraded area shown the first slide. So it's this area within the 100 and this area within the 200 feet. That's where we are in our analysis right now. So we haven't gone further than that yet. We wanted to see what the commission thought about this and if they had any suggestions on what they wanted to see or do. But we're thinking that most of the degraded area, if not all of it, is located within an area that appeared to be at least a little disturbed. Like it definitely wasn't forested or vegetated. It could have had some lawn in it, but that area could have also been gravel. So we're not really sure what to do at the moment. We still need to do more analyses, but that's what we have. We wanted to give you an update, and then we'll take questions from there.
So let me get this straight. So you guys have done all the research and everything like this, but you haven't, I guess, overlaid this information onto Craig's plan, is that correct?
That's correct.
So how long is that gonna take?
Well, we kind of wanted a little direction, not long. I mean,
Why do you need direction from us? That's the question, this is kind of silly. I don't understand why you need direction from us.
well,
I asked the landowner to come up with a plan and hire a wetlands consultant to help him with this restoration of the area that he potentially may have infringed upon. So the challenge here is what you need to do is you need to evaluate the limit of what was degraded and then quantify and calculate what is new or what isn't new. And if there's anything new that needs to be restored. It's pretty simple. I don't see why this has gone on this long. It makes no sense to me.
well, we are contracted when we're contracted, and we do work when we're contracted. So we have been working on it. But so.
All right, well, I think by next meeting, if we don't have an answer, the landowner's probably gonna have an enforcement order on his doorstep. So I'm getting tired of this stuff. This is ridiculous.
All right, well, maybe that's the feedback that you can give the client, is that we need to see the two things match. The plan of the existing work and matched against what could be defended as disturbed area, but we need to see that to know, in order to make some kind of a decision about, okay, this falls within a grandfathered area or not.
All right, so you really want to see kind of this image overlaid on the survey plan? Is that what you're?
As I understood it, there was question of new activity that went into area where it shouldn't have gone. But
Right.
we don't see the illustration or the extent of the new activity on, you presented a defense of any activity in what could be degraded area, but we don't have the where that activity is, so.
Well,
We see here that.
I think we do have that information. We know that this is the riverfront, this is the 100-foot riverfront area, this is the 200 riverfront area. This was mostly the area in question, which was the extension of the gravel area, in which the landowner says he did not, and he just top dressed an area that was already graveled. And again, because of the aerial photos being old and not really being able to see them very well,
Well,
it's hard to
no,
tell.
But, so we don't have any new aerial photos to know what the new activity is. But we have.
I do. I have near map and I can overlay it. I'll bring it to the next meeting and I will show the commission this because, you know, I just think this is kind of silly, to be honest with you. I'm going to be plain English. Is that if I can get this information and superimpose it, I think a lot of other people can do that. So, you know, I'm not a consultant. I am the conservation director for the town. But, I mean, I asked him to basically come in and basically prove that he wasn't in violation of the Wetlands Protection Act.
All right,
That's what I asked him to do.
But
So therefore, you know, I don't have any information. Like, if I was gonna make a decision, do I issue an enforcement order or not? I'm issuing an enforcement order right now because, for instance, I don't have nothing to document basically that you're in compliance. Like, that's the crazy part right here. So if you're not ready, by the next meeting, I'm gonna make a motion for the commission to issue an enforcement order.
All right.
This
John,
is getting a bit too much.
But-
I'm
but-
sorry, but this is just getting too much.
You're dressing down Nicole, but in all fairness, if I'm interpreting what you said before, Nicole, it's not clear your client hired you to do what was supposed to be done. Or if they did, okay, but right now, I think between Craig and you, it needs to be made clear to the client that the client is not allowing the information to be presented properly to the commission. And so we need to see that. That
Okay.
message needs to go through loud and clear to the owner of the property, otherwise the owner of the property is gonna have other issues to deal with, so,
No, and I understand John's frustration, and I understand that sometimes get heated, so my feelings are not hurt, John. And especially since I'm covering this hearing for someone else, because they had 2 hearings tonight, so I knew I, was talking on points that I haven't, you know, I didn't do this work. I'm helping out an associate scientist and presenting what he has done. And I hear your recommendations of putting this figure onto the plan. But I mean, we do have square footage. I guess my point to you, John, and maybe I didn't make it very clear, and I'm sorry about that, that we're finding evidence that back in 1996, there was some disturbance out here. We know about a volleyball court, and we know that this area does not appear to be vegetated.
all right.
And if
Nicole,
this
let
was
me-
prior, wait a minute, if this was prior to the Wetlands Protection Act, that area would be grandfathered, and any work in there wouldn't, if it's disturbed prior to the Rivers Protection Act, it'd be grandfathered.
Okay,
So-
if you're making a defense of activity in that area, fine, but let's see the data showing that the activity is in that area, and then if you want to try to defend it, that's fine. But, you know, the other half of the coin is, there is an attitude among many business owners of, I'll just do it, nobody will notice. And then when people do notice, with, you know, people who are responsible for enforcing what is the law, all of a sudden they're not coming clean. And the funny thing is, when those same people have an issue next to their property, they want to be sure that the law is appropriately enforced for their personal interests at the time.
Mhm.
So I think that's some of the frustration that you are hearing, is we're just trying to do our job.
No, and I
be
believe me, I
responsible
understand.
for all of the citizens of this town.
And I understand that, and I'm sorry if it appears that we didn't want to give you certain information, but that's not the case, and we will get you that information by next hearing.
Okay, that sounds, you okay with that, John?
I don't really have a choice, so it doesn't really matter.
All right, but I think your client needs to know loud and clear that we want the information, and if they want to make the case that this is grandfathered, fine.
Okay.
But we need the data.
All right, will do. Thank you very much.
I have a quick question for John here. John, is this an impervious surface that was added? Is it top dressed with gravel, or is this ground asphalt millings?
It's both, it's a combination.
So we should be expecting some quantity.
Yeah, and here's the other thing, Joe, is like, so when I was a consultant, we did all this stuff, we took pictures, we had a presentation, we showed the commission all this stuff to kind of show kind of the existing conditions and everything. Obviously, you know, that's something I did communicate to the landowner about what we would want to see. I'm getting a little frustrated, and I apologize to, you know, Nicole, I don't mean to take it out on you, but it's more situational for this. Because I have basically been very patient with this person and with trying to communicate and give them time to get a plan together, and this is what we're getting. This is not acceptable. I am not pleased with this current situation. So I don't know who needs to basically do better, but it needs to be better by the next meeting. Otherwise, I'm gonna prepare an enforcement order, so you can let your client know that. I need basically something a lot better than this, the next meeting, which is gonna be July 13th.
Okay.
Can I just ask a question too for point of clarification? Because Nicole, you're saying that the owner is stating he didn't just sort of do anything other than repair areas that were already disturbed previously. It made me believe that he's thinking this was a parking area before. We're just, you know, putting down some gravel just to continue to be a parking area. I'm just flipping through Google Earth right now just to get a sense for this spot, and for a good, 10 years at least, it looks pretty green to me. I'm not seeing any signs that there was any gravel or anything prior to that, up until, so it's probably more like 2023 it's green, and then come 2025 you can see there's a gray area, presumably that's somewhere between there. How is this just, can you better explain his stance that this is sort of a maintenance of the area, because it doesn't seem to jive with what we see in the aerials.
Yeah, no, and I understand, and again, I was told this by Chris, who is the project manager of this and created these images, these figures. That's what the homeowner, the landowner has said to us, that he does not believe he's impacted any resource area or buffer zone. He states that he just put down gravel on already disturbed areas. That's all I know.
Okay, and then I will add that, you know, as a environmental consultant, it would be your job and Goddard's job to either quantify his claim or basically refute his claim. And that would be what your job is, to let him know whether there's the need for mitigation to follow, or that he is in compliance. And for instance, we can just tell the commission exactly, you know, that he was in compliance with X amount of square feet that was historically altered previously prior to the Rivers Protection Act. And I think that getting something in that form of writing, narrative, letter, would be very helpful for the next meeting.
All right, will do. I took good notes, and I will pass it on to Chris.
All right, thank you, Nicole. Any no
Thank
further
you.
questions? Okay. So next item on the agenda is any requests for continuation of public hearings, and I don't think we had any such requests, is it?
No.
Okay, so we're going to move on to 225 South Worcester Street. Now that was as I recall, a request for an amendment of, I think there was a slight increase in impervious surface.
Yeah, they sent over a memorandum, a more detailed memorandum. I don't know if any of the members took a look at it, but it looked good to me. I don't know if anyone else had any questions.
Yeah, I mean, this was the stormwater system that was oversized initially, and the changes were only a small amount, and it was felt that the existing design would more than compensate for any slight increase. So that means we are up for a vote to accept it as a non-significant change to the existing order. Is that I guess the vote is whether.
That's correct. It would be, it is
Whether or
a
not the
minor
applicant
plan change.
had to apply for an amended order as opposed to a minor plan change. Everybody have that clear? Questions about what's on the table?
Sure, I'll make a motion to approve the minor plan change for project number 250-1175.
Second.
A motion made by Mark, seconded by Joe. So Mark, and I think Dan is on the phone, and Joe, how do you vote?
Aye.
Aye.
Dan, if you're out there, just make it clear with you know which one it is.
Yeah, I think it's the phone number at the bottom.
We don't have to unmute them, right?
No. Oh, there you
There
go.
you are.
Can you hear me?
We can hear you now.
Can you hear me?
We can.
Okay, I'm sorry, I thought I was unmuted already. Aye.
All right, and I'll throw in an aye. That completes the motion. The motion carries. That's 225 South Worcester Street. And then we have Zero Island Road. Now, is this really a public inquiry? Well, I guess technically it's not a hearing. So, but we need a plan because what was.
So, yes, so what they're interested in understanding is if the work as proposed would be acceptable or amenable by the commission to come in as a RDA filing. That's the question we have.
If we can bring up a plan, do you have a plan you can share, or? Because what they're proposing, is it new construction on this lot?
Correct.
But it has, as we can see on the plan, we have a road in between the area of construction and the nearby wetland. So it would be very likely that the potential for any kind of sedimentation across that road into the adjacent wetland is pretty low. I mean, is that your thought, John?
That was my thought. I mean, that was the kind of the initial thought process when they talked to me about it. But obviously, the question is, I like to make sure that the commission feels the same way with my kind of decisions when it comes to it, or my thoughts. So
Yeah,
I just want to get feedback from the board and see if that is kind of what you guys were thinking as well.
Well, looking at the contours, it's almost dead flat. I mean, there's just a little, I mean, there's a depression. I mean, the site itself, I think, is 104, and then it dips down to lower than that at the gutter of the road, and then it's not till you get to the wetland that it goes down to 102, which is, I guess, about 50 feet away. So, can we request that they put I don't know, I mean, what's the thought that something can?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, they're coming in for a permit. It's gonna be an RDA. We can definitely have them put sediment controls across the street if you think that that's gonna be
Well,
necessary.
no, I don't think it'd be across the street, but DPW wouldn't allow sedimentation to run into the road, would they?
Oh, no, I hear what you're saying. Sorry, yes,
Yeah.
we can do that too.
I mean,
When
that would.
when they come in front.
If it got anywhere near to crossing the road, DPW should be all over them long before that. I mean, any construction site is not allowed to fill in a public way in the process of construction, I'm assuming.
That's typically standard.
Yeah, all right. So I personally would be fine with an RDA.
John, what's the flood elevation here?
I asked them the same thing with that and made sure that they were outside the flood elevation for this site. They are. It's 103 points, I want to say 6'7", 6'7".
It's 6'5". I think you just took the opportunity to say that. It's fine.
Mark, you get the gist, right?
Uh,
You got kids, yep.
Unfortunately, I understand that one.
Are you at the same flood elevation, Mark?
I'm not, no.
Well, I happen to be across the lake and I am, so I know about that.
I'll explain it to him later.
All right, so this doesn't need a motion. I mean, this is not a formal hearing, but I think it's, unless, I mean, Dan, are you okay with it? And Joe,
Yes,
do you see any reason to make this other than an RDA?
yeah, that's fine.
And Joe?
Not sure on this one.
Okay.
What would be your concerns, though?
We're within the buffer and, questionable elevation.
But the RDA does allow us regulatory overview. It's just a question of, is there anything we're gonna add by requiring a full notice? And my view of that is no, but we still.
Well, I'm not sure with septic system design and there's just a lot missing here.
Actually, is this part of the catchment area of the sewer system? I think, yeah, I think all this is sewered.
This is all sewer.
I don't know if we have that on the plan. Looks like we don't. But we can clarify that in the RDA hearing. And that can be the trigger for converting it if, I mean, they can't put a septic system there. That was the reason.
These lots are all like 5,000 square feet, and that's the challenge.
All right, then that, if it's on septic, it satisfies me there.
Okay.
All right, well, worst case scenario, they can present it as an RDA. And if there are real significant objections, they'll have to convert it to a full notice.
I will let them know to plan to, you guys don't need to vote on this, I will let them know to prepare a RDA for that project.
All right, so we're at 361R Old Colony, and this was the project where there is a auxiliary building installed, proposed to be installed on the site. And we reviewed that, and it required a, well, actually, I don't know if the wall was part of the modification of the plan, or but there was a question as to the type of wall, and they gave us new information on that.
Yeah, so they're basically trying to reuse boulders that they have on site. They have a lot of boulders on that site, and they're looking to potentially do a boulder mix of the boulders wall and then also the precast gravity wall that they had designed. They gave us a design detail sheet, but they didn't give us an actual site plan drawing. So I'm gonna say hold off on this until we actually get that site plan drawing, because I want to see where the transition's gonna go from the boulder wall to the gravity wall. Because I don't want the board basically making a decision on that until we actually get limits for that and also get more information on the contours, like the top and bottom of the wall, which we typically require. So they're not ready, and it doesn't look like someone's here tonight, so I would say we just push that one off.
Okay. All right. We're now in our continued public hearing, 416 Old Colony Road, and this was, oh, I'm gonna need a plan to fully refresh my memory. It was, but do we have a representative of the applicant? This is file number 250-1170.
Looks like we do not.
No, never mind.
Well, it was, originally it was Robert Lustier, and they came in person, so,
They're probably waiting to do the revisions, and then they'll come back to the 13th meeting. So I would say the board make a motion to continue.
Motion to continue.
all right, we have a motion, I assume that was Joe, and we need a second on that.
Second?
So the motion is to continue file number 250-1170 until July 13th. So Mark, Joe, and Dan, how do you vote?
Aye.
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 And I'll throw in an aye, that motion carries. Determination 1148, Mass Coastal Railroad right-of-way. Looks like we do have a representative, Mr. Lewis. Or at least we have a phone identified as Mr. Lewis. Is that our representative?
It is. I don't know if you can hear us.
There we have.
Can you hear me now?
We can hear you now, so
Oh, great.
maybe you could give us a little description of what's going on there.
Okay, so just a little background. Railroads in Massachusetts, they manage their vegetation under the rights-of-way regulation, which is administered by MDR, the Department of Agricultural Resources. And as part of that, they have to have an approved vegetation management plan. And their most recent one expired at the end of last year and is currently in the process of renewal. And as part of that renewal, we have to go to each municipality to obtain determination of the boundaries of the resource areas for wetland water supplies. So that's the purpose of my RDA application.
So you are not proposing a vegetation control activity currently?
Well, we are. It's an ongoing maintenance that we do every year. But we have to resubmit for this determination every 5 years when the BMP is up for renewal.
All right, well, I've been through this process at least a couple times before, and usually there is a defined plan set, even an electronic plan set, that is part of the filing, and do you have that?
When you say a plan set, I mean, the mapping that's defined under the rights-of-way regulations, the maps are consistent with the USGS quad sheet, which is 1 in 25,000 scale. That's what was submitted as part of the application, and that's what we've always submitted in the past.
I can share that, because I believe.
Well, but that's, all right, so, John, I need a little feedback here. I mean, when this was under review with, well, I can't remember, was Kathy or who the,
So this is kind of the same kind of application we received when Jennifer Carlino was in Norton. And the board at that time, basically, they were amenable to this kind of format. I have no issues with it. I was just wondering if, when we would get a digital kind of format of it, which we got finally. So with that said, I mean, I think we have everything we need, which is consistent with what we got last time, I guess 5 years or so ago, for this similar kind of initiative that, Mass Coastal and MDR are looking to do. So I just think it's consistent with what they had previously.
all right, but, yeah, no, I agree, it's just, that at the time when they were proposing herbicide and other cutting,
Yeah,
somehow I thought-
we get those notice plans that come in through the office, the reports and everything.
All right, well then you'll have to tell me, this is as a determination, but it's a little bit difficult to just summary say, well, we'll approve it as the plans delineate when it's a map. I mean, it's a little unclear what we're approving here.
Just maybe, Mr. Lewis, maybe you could just quickly educate us on, as you said, this doesn't come up more than every 5 years, so for future reference, when I'm seeing along the railway some colored areas marked either as a light blue limited spray zone, darker blue, and then a yellow no spray zone, am I to read that as in any areas not marked with that along the railway could be fully sprayed? Or are they managed through cutting, or what am I to take of the lack of a coloration along the line?
Sure, so I'll give you a little bit more background, just so you understand. So they're allowed to spray herbicides in a buffer zone, but no closer than 10 feet to a resource area. So, and there's an exemption for the riverfront as well. So that's how we develop the maps, and we use MassGIS as the basis for all of this. We download the data layers for that, as well as water supply data layers if they're in the area. So the color codes, as you mentioned, the lighter blue indicates a buffer zone area. A yellow indicates a no spray zone, but we can never spray. In the buffer zone, we're allowed to spray once per year using only sensitive area materials, which is a list that the Commonwealth maintains, where they only allow products on that list if they show to have characteristics that are safe for use in sensitive areas. The uncolored areas would indicate uplands, but what I can tell you is we treat uplands essentially the same as buffer zone, because trying to have two different products on a truck and transitioning from one to the other is just logistically too difficult. So all the railroads that I work for, we just use sensitive area materials everywhere.
So
Great, that's very helpful, thank you.
when I'm looking at this very large scale map, I'm seeing other indications. For example, you have Norton Sheet 2, and you also have other numbers. So I think you have another data set for this activity that used to be what we would make our decision about. You have Norton Sheet 1, Norton Sheet 2. So I don't know, maybe you're not familiar with all the data that is normally used for this kind of decision, but I mean,
I'm not sure what other data set you're talking about. There's only the two sheets here.
What I previously have reviewed is similar to road construction activities. There are actually digital sheets
Julian, we have to be real careful. This is done under Mass Department of Agriculture. There are a whole set of guidelines that they're operating under here that are not what we're. So these are within spec under Mass.
Well, then I guess my question is, why do we even review them? If you're telling me there's nothing to review here, why are we even
So
involved?
Julian, this is more so a courtesy. That's what I'm trying to get at with
Okay,
these.
well, then,
I
fine.
can add to that if that's okay. So there's a couple of reasons why they do this locally through the RDA process. The biggest one is so that they can have an opportunity for local input through a public meeting process. That's the biggest reason why they do it. But the other reason is MDR is a state agency, and they figure the towns know their areas and resource areas better than they do, than MDR.
All right, okay, so, but John, I bet you won't be out there watching what they do, and there's no point that you need to be. I just am on, never mind, so are we?
I can tell you that MDR is out there, and they do use observations. They make sure we have all the yearly operational plans, and that we have our public comment periods, and we respond to all the public comments that are out there. They take samples from the tank of the truck and send it back to a lab to analyze them to make sure that the products and concentrations are correct. So they are honest the whole step of the way. It's just you don't normally see that.
Okay,
Yeah. How I treat these types of projects, Julian, just so you know, is more so like a utility project that is basically exempt from all the Wetland Protection Act provisions. So, you know, that's just more so a courtesy that they're sending it over to us, just so we know what they're doing this activity, and basically that they're trying to stay on the books and to, like Tom said, you know, gain feedback from the community if needed through this process.
all right. Do we have members of the audience who want to give feedback, questions? I don't know if there's anyone else on the Zoom call, because if we're ready for a vote, I guess we're ready for a vote. So this is a request for determination.
It's
So-
gonna be I think it's what is it, a positive 2A, is that correct, Tom?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Okay,
I'd like to make a motion for positive 2A on Mass DEP file 1148.
Second.
Second.
all right, we have a motion made by Joe, seconded by Mark. Mark, Joe, and Dan, how do you vote?
Aye.
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 And I'll throw in an aye.
Hey, thank you.
Thank you, Tom.
Have a good night.
Very good. All right, so we are now at a new public hearing, 0 Mansfield Avenue by, it's file number 250-1206. We have an applicant of Anthony Rosito, I guess, and a representative, Eric Dias. I saw an Eric Dias, there we go. How are you, Eric?
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, how are you?
I'm good, and we can kind of define this parcel. It took me a little while to identify where it is, and maybe you can help us with that.
Sure, absolutely. Just for the record, Eric Dias, registered professional engineer, Strong Point Engineering. I'm going to start sharing my screen because I think that will help. This parcel, let me go this way first. We'll go that one. So this is the existing conditions plan, which may look somewhat familiar. We filed an ANRAD on this and received an order of resource area delineation toward the end of 2023. There are 2 isolated wetlands on the site, sort of outside of the 100-foot buffer zone from the BBW that's attached to the Norton Reservoir toward the back, and they are non-jurisdictional wetlands.
Eric,
Just
let me just add, the building that is visible is Alberto's.
Antonio's. Alberto's. I always call it the wrong thing.
Alberto's, and this fence indicated is a fenced-in area where plants are sold during the spring.
Yes.
So that can help visually identify exactly where this parcel is. But it's otherwise, other than a couple of sheds, there's nothing out there but vegetation.
That is correct. In fact, I just pulled up the Google Street View, so this is Alberto's right here. And as we're looking, this is southward. This is the vacant site that you see, and you can see there's this fence that the chairman was just talking about. That's like an overgrown garden area, and then moving this way more is where it gets, more heavily vegetated and things like that. In fact, that first isolated vegetated wetland that we talked about is sort of right at the bottom of where this sign that you see in this tree is here. So that hopefully just helps by way of orientation. Let me go back to the plan. So, as I mentioned, the wetlands were delineated, they were approved through an ORAD. There's 2 IBWs in the front of the site that are non-jurisdictional. And what we're proposing at this time is essentially a laydown yard. But I want to just make clear for the record that this is intended to be a temporary use of the site. The owner is currently evaluating options for what I'll call a more sophisticated development that we intend to be bringing forward to you folks in the next couple of months, as soon as we kind of zero in on exactly what it is that we're looking at for a program here. But we want to get the site ready for some site prep work. The owner's got a few other projects in town that it made some sense to kind of give him a kind of a more central staging area, things like that. So what we're proposing to do is basically to come in to clear the vegetated areas of the site. The 2 isolated vegetated wetlands will be filled, and they, as I mentioned, they are non-jurisdictional. The total filling is well under the 5,000 square foot threshold. It requires any kind of filing under the Clean Waters Act or any 401 water quality cert. This area the pavement that kind of you can see here that extends into the site will remain, and will be accessing this site through the Alberto's parking lot rather than immediately making another curb cut onto Mansfield Ave. We don't want to do that until we know more of what the final product that's being intended here is going to be. The site will be, we'll install probably either a compact gravel or asphalt millings on the site for a stable base while they work. And then to talk about stormwater management, we've done test pits on the site. The whole site is intended to kind of follow the natural flow path where it goes now. Stormwater management will first hit an infiltration trench that will filter out, serve as pre-treatment and infiltration. It'll filter out things like, suspended solids, sediments, things like that. And then that is essentially designed to overflow right into an infiltration basin. So the solids will settle out, the clean water will overflow into an infiltration basin, and we're proposing a small outlet control structure with a flared end section here. Everything is designed with riprap stabilization at the discharge points. And for containment purposes, to keep everything on the site, because we're not looking at curbs and things like that at this point at least, we've designed a small proposed containment berm along the southern property boundary. The idea is that any stormwater runoff would flow in eventually, worst case scenarios, it catches the containment berm and goes into the infiltration where it's supposed to be. On the south side of the grading that's required for the infiltration basin, we're actually proposing a directional swale. Any runoff that hit that swale would be from grassed areas. As soon as the infiltration basin is cut in, it's going to be seeded, hydroseeded, stabilized, and that directional swale will just keep stuff off of the southern property and direct any runoff to where it's going right now, which is the bordering vegetation attached to the Norton Reservoir. The other thing to mention, is that the southern property is actually owned by the town. I believe you folks did a canoe launch there in the last couple of years. Aside from that, we have proposed adequate erosion controls around the site. It has been peer reviewed by Pat Brennan. Pat had some pretty, minor comments that we do still need to address, so we don't anticipate necessarily wrapping this up tonight. We were hoping to come, make a presentation to you folks, get any comments that the commission has, wrap it up in one revision, and then fire it back over to Pat for a final review. So really, those are the finer points. I'm glad to turn it over to you and answer any questions, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, so John, do you have any comments? I mean, presumably this is kind of being done in anticipation of a larger project next door, I'm assuming. Because
Yeah, well, possibly on this site and maybe next door as well. It could be a combination of other things too, that might come into light. I don't know, but we'll see in the future.
Yeah.
Anybody else on the commission have questions, comments?
I have a couple here.
Yeah, go ahead.
You said it's gonna be a potential laid-down yard.
Yes.
Is there gonna be a diversional fencing between the Alberto's parking lot and this? Or some break that we're not gonna have cars parking in here and overflow management of stormwater coming from that direction?
Sure, that's a very good question. So just by luck, the way that the Alberto's site lays out is that all the runoff from Alberto's sort of misses our site, which is nice, right? We don't really have to worry about that too much. We haven't proposed a fence at this time, but as we're talking about that, I think some sort of fencing and delineation between the two makes sense. We certainly don't want customers from Alberto's parking on this site. So we will have to do some sort of delineation between the two, and I'm glad to add that in.
And my other issue is the wrap. Being this close to the reservoir, having wrap here is probably not the best material. Seeing there, we don't know what type of materials are going to be stored here, what type, and whether or not we're getting any filtration going to happen. So, I do have some issues with that because I don't know. I mean, we could be storing electrical grid. All I know.
Sure. When you say wrap, are you referring to recycled asphalt?
Correct.
Okay. No, that's a good point. 2 points on that. One, when we talk about, infiltrative capacity, we've designed this area as if it was 100% impervious for the sizing of our stormwater to make sure that is a very conservative approach. But I understand the concern about the reclaimed asphalt. I don't think we're necessarily married to it. I think we'd probably be just as happy to put down some compact gravel. Really what we're looking for is a stable base that's not gonna rut if we pass a truck over it, that's all.
All right, well, I guess, go ahead.
Sean, do you have any issues with stormwater here or anything with these materials?
As it pertains to the final material that goes on top, I think the plan is for this design probably to have asphalt impervious, right? At some point, Eric, is that the end result goal?
In the future, whatever comes as a more sophisticated design after this, yes, there will be at least some impervious asphalt component to it.
And my understanding is that, for instance, the basin that you're constructing for this is going to be constructed in a way that, for instance, it's anticipating the future development of whatever might go here. Is that correct?
That is correct. Ideally, we would be able to leave the infiltration basin for what we bring through.
Mm-hmm.
However, I've also kind of, in the grading of this site, considered that we're not doing any cutting of existing material now, so that we're not taking away existing soil, so that we do have the ability in the future, if we wanted to reconfigure this basin or even eliminate it and go subsurface, we could do that under a separate application.
So let's say you are using reclaimed asphalt. What's easier for cleanup? Obviously, I don't know. I mean, I'm asking. Is it easier to put down the recycled asphalt and then have the final product later? Or is it easier to do gravel and then do the final product on top of that?
Or are you gonna place a geotextile between the two?
Or something along those lines.
That's something that we could look at. I would imagine that you know, what we're anticipating right now is basically, and I think I can draw on this, so let me do that. Essentially, if this is approved, this entire section that's highlighted here would be, whether it be grass, processed gravel, reclaimed asphalt, whatever it is, would be considered to be impervious with this first stage. I would imagine as we move into something more sophisticated, there are going to be sections of what would be impervious now that would be cut out to be lawn area, landscape area, green space, things like that. As far as what's easier to move, I think they move the same way, right? Gravel and asphalt, they're going to come up the same way. I think it's more of a question is what can we reuse on site? Right? What is the best thing for us to maybe use as once we reconfigure, that we don't have to haul off the site, we can leave on the site and now use that as the base for pavement or future pavement or something like that. So
Yeah.
the more we're talking about it, the more I'm starting to talk myself more into gravel.
Yeah, well, I was just thinking the same thing. I'm thinking if I'm going through all this effort to do this, I'm probably gonna put gravel and then just top coat it later, you know?
And it seems like that's kind of the way this is shaping up as I'm talking myself into it here.
All right, well, I guess you kind of confused, or I got confused, because you're saying there's gonna be no independent access to this site except through Alberto's, is that correct?
Yeah, so the basic path that would happen would, trucks would come in here, and then this is our tire scrubber, just to stop tracking from onto Alberto's. So that's, right now, the basic path that folks would take. Now, a future project may very well have its own curb cut off of Mansfield Ave. But until we have been able to determine the exact parameters of what's to come next, I don't want to go through the process of, you know, permitting a curb cut, a temporary curb cut through Mass DOT, and then having to possibly revise it later and take another stab at that. So we thought staying with kind of this purple pathway for this immediate purpose was the better way to go.
All right, but then obviously, I'm assuming the owner of the Alberto's parcel and this owner are the same.
That is correct, yes.
Okay. All right, so we have no idea what's coming, but we're just looking at what you want to do now.
That's right.
All right, any further?
We have ideas, we're just trying to turn them into a good one first.
All right,
I would like to see some division between the two. It would definitely make people good here.
I think that does make some sense, yes, and I'm glad to, like I said, I don't think we're gonna wrap this tonight, so I'm glad to, when we send a revised plan back to John and over to Pat Brennan, we can add something to that.
well, let me understand clearly. You're saying division between the two parcels, Joe?
At least within our jurisdictional area.
Well, yeah, I don't know. I mean, that's more a planning board area, isn't it?
For a construction side thing, we can put it in the BMP for the stormwater side things.
Okay.
And I think if I may, through the chair to Mr. Carvalho, what you're basically looking for is some way to delineate kind of along this line to keep the Alberto's customers on this side and construction activity on this side, so they're not crossing each other, and or the you know, Alberto's customers are not necessarily parking, let's say, right here.
Parking, tracking out, being gravel, or whatever type of material you decide to use, just all of the basic.
No, that's fair. We can certainly come up with some sort of barrier to get there.
All right, so anyone in the meeting have any questions? So you had mentioned that we will need to continue this. So we have the 13th or the 27th of July as the choices. You have a preference?
I'm going to ask for the 13th. I don't think any of the revisions that we have to make to address Pat's comments are going to take us very long at all.
All right. We can consider a motion.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion made by Dan, seconded by Mark, to continue the public hearing for I guess this is a regular notice, file number 250-1206. Going to continue it until the 13th of July. So Mark, Joe, and Dan, how do you vote?
Aye.
Aye.
And I'll throw in an aye, the motion carries.
Great, thank you
Eric.
very much for your time.
You bet.
Thank you, Eric.
Thank you, guys, we'll see you soon.
So next
Thank
item.
you.
Next item is kind of a marginal formality, file number 250-468. I can't remember what that date's from, but it involves the, I guess the sewer installation.
Yeah.
2005-ish, I want to say.
Yeah, I
Okay.
believe it was 2005.
And I reviewed in the Google Drive the certificate of compliance that we signed. So there's one COC, but I guess there's a request for another.
Yeah, so just so the commission's aware, when it came to these large-scale projects where, I guess a lot of homeowners were affected, each individual homeowner would get their own partial COC associated with that. I think as part of that was this administrative process. So, you know, the request this evening is for a partial COC for that specific address
Did it say partial
for
or?
this project.
No, it was in full.
So, I mean, that's I guess what I don't understand. And it was a full for the property address, so we're gonna issue a full for the property? I mean, it's not a partial because the whole project is now done.
Right, but the challenge here is that we already issued the full COC for the project. This applicant is requesting that they get a site-specific address for this property. So it's not just for that one property, it's for, I wanna say, a lot of the King Philip properties associated with this project. So we already issued it. So we could issue a partial COC, but I don't think we should issue another full COC because we already did that.
All right, so I guess I misinterpreted what was in Google Drive. So that doesn't have the specific address number.
Exactly, it just
Okay.
listed the roadways.
All right, so we can now issue one with the address as 127 King Philip.
As a partial.
Correct.
So it has to be a partial. See, I don't
That's
know
what-
how,
that-
I mean.
That's
this is-
correct. When you basically take the whole entire project, and there's multiple properties associated with that project, it has to be a partial certificate when it comes to a specific site address, because the whole project spans more than one address.
All right, well, we're doing this because of a request of a lawyer involved with the transfer of the property.
Correct.
I just hope that it doesn't come back because we're calling it a partial.
Well,
but-
unfortunately, we can't give a full certificate of compliance for the whole entire
So-
project, because we already did that.
We'll leave that to you to explain, but right now.
I can have it out with them if I need to, it's
Okay,
fine.
right now, I'm looking for a motion to issue a partial certificate of compliance specifically with the address of 127 King Philip Road and file number 250-468. And if you just say so moved, fine.
So moved.
Second.
All right, we have a motion made by Mark, seconded by Joe. Joe, Mark, and Dan, how do you vote?
Aye.
Aye.
And I'll throw in an aye. We're done with that. Next motion, unless there's further
So,
discussion.
just so we're all aware, so next July 13th, we're gonna basically we have this every year, but we're just basically to talk about amongst each other as board members. I hope everybody's gonna be in attendance, but if we wanna change up the dynamics of the commission, the chair, the vice chair, the clerk, so, you know, that's just gonna be a topic of discussion that's gonna be on the next agenda.
And did we clarify who's getting reappointed?
So just so we're aware, I have reached out to the select board office, I have reached out to the clerk. Your requests are pending, I guess, I don't know. But just so that you're all aware, anyone that's up for reappointment, you are still actively valid to vote if you do not get sworn in or re-sworn in or reappointed. So you are still valid until they either decide to replace you or bring you back in to get, re-sworn in.
I think I have to, send in a letter or something, or,
Yeah, so Mark
Do I?
sent his letter in to the office, so if anyone else needs to send in a letter, they can. They typically have sent notices in the past to all the residents, but to skip that step, I think it's probably in best interest of everybody here to just send in your letters, your letter of interest, and I will forward them over to the select board, and hopefully you'll get on the next select board agenda.
All right, so I guess we're ready for a motion to adjourn.
so moved.
Second.
Motion made by Dan, seconded by Joe. We're gonna just say, all in favor, say aye, please.
Aye.
Aye.
And I'll throw in an aye, I think we did it.